Saturday, August 17th, we got Ian Cameron. I am Drew Martin. We're talking MLB for today. We got CFL, a couple games north of the border, and a huge NFL preseason slate. I like it a lot. I know Ian does as well. We can touch on some UFC as well. Join us in the chat box. Let us know what you guys want to hear and what you're betting. Ian, happy Saturday morning to you, buddy.
Always good to be with you, Drew, on a Saturday. This is a little more momentous Saturday than normal. We're on the eve of Miami week. Here at SBR, Jimmy the Bag, me, Drew Martin, Whale Capper, Donnie Rightside, DJ Big Boss. Go on down the list. It's just a ton of people that'll be down there. I'll be there later in the week, arriving Thursday, and then staying through till the end of next weekend. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of fun. And hopefully on this Saturday show, we'll put a little more into your bankroll and into your wallet for that Miami trip with a few winners on the board today.
Absolutely, man. Well said. What are you most excited about for in Miami? You've seen the schedule. You know, we got the Marlins game, the Dolphins game, kind of Hollywood Boardwalk, a lot of stuff going on. What's kind of caught your eye the most?
The two live sporting events. I mean, I wanted to make sure I was there for those two. I mean, the Dolphins game, the Marlins game, we're doing those on Thursday and Friday. I'll be there for those. Definitely looking forward to that. Even a little horse action at Gulfstream Park down there on the Saturday. You know, it'll be fun. It's always fun going to the track. We have a couple horse tracks here in Ontario that I go to with sometimes when I don't have a ton going on. I'll visit the horse track every now and then. Not often, but anytime I do, it's always a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. And looking forward even at the sports bar next Saturday, where we'll be to watch the first two college football games of the season: Miami and Florida, Arizona and Hawaii. You're going to see the scoreboard light up quite a bit in that game. Maybe not so much in the first game, but those two college football games next Saturday. We'll be all hanging out watching that. So lots of stuff to look forward to. I keep seeing the pictures about the Diplomat Hotel. Looks like a fantastic place. Looking forward to seeing that. And, of course, looking forward to seeing all of our SBR viewers that they're loyal, that tune in on a regular basis, that are all good people for the most part. I don't think I've had many bad relationships with any of our viewers. And hopefully that'll continue once we leave Miami next weekend. But definitely looking forward to this trip, Drew. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. We got Gase, we got Paco Healy, EJ in the house, Dogbree. What is up, guys? Thanks for joining us this Saturday morning. We'll be back next Saturday morning as well, 11 a.m. Eastern. I believe some other guys from down in Miami will be joining us. Ian, we'll be breaking down mainly the two college football cards, also hitting on the MLB slate as well, and some CFL, I'm sure. You know who's going to be jumping on the show with us?
Yeah, next week we're doing Closing Line live on location in Miami, same time. Actually, it's going to be moved up. I believe they're doing it at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time next Saturday. So a little half hour earlier. I think that's so that we can get to the horse track in a timely fashion after that, because we're doing Gulfstream Park on the Saturday afternoon, apparently, based on the schedule. So 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. I'm pretty 99% sure that's going to be the time for the show next Saturday. Drew and I, as always, I think we're going to have some guests. I believe Big Ragu and DJ Big Boss will be on our panel next Saturday morning on the Closing Line show, along with Drew and I. So it'll be a lot of fun. And again, we'll hit the two college football games that take place next Saturday. We'll look at the preseason slate, MLB, CFL, break it all down for you live in Miami next Saturday morning. The show will go on, even though we'll be down in MIA.
All right. Good morning to you, Dogbree. We got over in Cleveland, New York Yankees. We'll hit on that game, man. No problem about it. Ian, you want to hit on NFLX, CFL, or MLB first, man?
We'll do baseball first. We'll save all the football till the end.
I'm looking at this Dodgers Atlanta Braves game. I mean, Fultonavich, he just hasn't been right. I mean, he showed flashes of being right at times against this Dodgers lineup. I think he's going to have a tough time in SunTrust Park. It's just a matter of finding ways to bet on the Dodgers. I'm thinking this line is just too low. It's kind of a little freaky to me, almost like it's a little too low to get on it. Like the market's telling us something, and I know you know what that means. With Ryu on the hill, under -150 with the Dodgers. I like the Dodgers here. I don't mind laying the wood. It's just a matter of, is the market trying to tell us something? You got anything on this Dodgers-Braves game, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tantalizing price. When do you see Atlanta as a home underdog in this range? It's very, very rare this season. Obviously, they've been coasting along, although I can't say coasting along anymore. to first place here in the NL East because,
No
you
way.
know, they've lost a couple of games. The Nationals are still right there. They're only 4.5 games behind Atlanta now, that Washington Nationals team. And even the Mets, you know, are still hanging around there. So this division isn't won yet for Atlanta. It looked like they were going to cruise to first in the NL East. They'll probably still win it. It'll be hard still for the Nats and Mets to catch them, but they're closer to Atlanta now than they were 3-4 weeks ago. So the pressure's on for Atlanta to keep winning. I don't trust Foltynewicz. That's the problem here. It's a really nice price with Atlanta, but I don't trust Foltynewicz, not against the Dodgers lineup. We know the Dodgers against righties, one of the top teams in MLB in terms of their production, in terms of their batting average, in terms of their weighted on base average against righties this season. I think it's probably a good matchup for that lineup. However, and this is what's going to point me toward the total in this game. I know it's been a really good season for Hyunjin Ryu, no question about that. But you know, he can give up some fly balls. This is still a Atlanta lineup with a lot of pop in it. Facing a lefty, we know the Braves have been mashing left-handed pitching all season long. Both bullpens a little bit spotty too. I mean, Dodgers pen has been worked a little bit, and the Atlanta pen was a disaster last night, coughing up the lead, allowing the Dodgers to win that game. So probably the Dodgers have the edge pitching wise. I wouldn't talk you out of the Dodgers. It's just not the value I'm looking for. More than anything, I'm looking over this total of 10. I think the Dodgers will hit Atlanta and Foltynewicz and that bullpen, which has been a little up and down lately. But even as good as Ryu's been, I think Atlanta matches up very well with him. They've mashed lefty pitching all season long. You finally get Ryu out of Dodger Stadium, where he's really been good. I think it'll be a little bit more tougher for him here today. So I think we'll see runs. I'll go over the total here, 10 runs.
Okay, I would agree with you. Especially on the Dodgers side, I think that the Dodgers can get to Folty. So I would look towards team total on the Braves, kind of correlated there with what Ian said. Ian, what about this Toronto team hosting Seattle? Two pitchers, you know, not necessarily mainstream guys. I mean, total in the same area here in the American League. Toronto, you know, their bats can get hot, man. We've seen it this year, even though not the greatest of years for the Blue Jays. That lineup can still mash. Seeing minus 160-ish, 10.5. You interested in getting involved with your Blue Jays?
The Jays, to me, are a team that really the main focal point for me in betting their games right now is just bet their team total over as much as possible. That has been a very good strategy lately for anyone getting involved in Toronto games. And why not? I mean, you see this lineup now on a regular basis. There's not many bats in this lineup that are in a cold streak or in a funk right now. You look at up and down this lineup. Bichette's been amazing. Vladdy Guerrero is now showing up and being that big-time hitter we thought he would be. Gavin Biggio's been solid. Randall Grichuk is really red hot now. He's been hitting home runs left and right at the plate recently. Even some of their lower in the lineup guys like Danny Jansen, the catcher, have been hitting pretty good lately. This is a really good 1 through 9 lineup right now, and most of them are in good current form at the plate. So good luck with that if you're McLean here for the Seattle Mariners. Certainly the Mariners pitching staff found out last night this isn't an easy lineup to shut down right now. On the other side, you got Thornton. Trent Thornton's a very, very tricky guy to handicap, Drew, because he has some of these starts where he's cruising along and pitching really well. He's had a few of those starts this season. And he's also had a few outings where he's been roughed up. He's had control and command issues. Walks have become a problem. And usually when he walks guys, he's a very fiery guy. If you look at him in terms of his emotions, he really gets emotional out there at times, Trent Thornton. When he starts walking guys and getting frustrated with himself, that's when he starts to lose focus. That's when things start to get away from him. So you're just wondering, what Trent Thornton am I going to get here today? Certainly the Seattle lineup is a lineup that's pretty feeble right now. You would think in theory it's a lineup that Thornton should be able to have success, but it's still the Seattle lineup versus Thornton matchup. I prefer not to handicap that if I can avoid it, and I'm going to avoid it here. So I'm just going to go Toronto team total over. I think this lineup's hot. I think they'll do more damage today against this Seattle pitching staff.
I like it, Ian. I agree with you. I think that they will get to the Seattle pitchers, absolutely. And combine that with the fact Seattle defensively, in terms of errors and most defensive metrics, you can make the argument the worst defensive team in MLB. We got a bunch of guys asking about New York Yankees. We'll hit on that. Also hitting on NFLX, great NFL preseason card. And Ian will break down the 2 CFL games. Guys, throw out any UFC bets you like as well. Red Girl in the house. I believe she will be part of it in Miami from South Florida. So good. Thanks for joining us, Red Girl, and excited to meet you as well as all the low baggers out there. It will be a fun time. We got Houston, Oakland, Ian. Also, some guys asking about the Yankees, maybe possibly missing some bats. But I mean, as anybody can deal with injuries, it's this Yankees team, man. It's almost like how are they going to get all of the bats that they have into the lineup? You have any interest here in Houston, Oakland, or what, Cleveland, New York Yankees?
Yeah, I mean, the New York Yankees, certainly it was a debacle for them on Thursday night in the first game of this series. What, 18-5? I think Michael Ford had to finish that game. Position player pitching in the late innings of that game. It was just an awful game. They bounced back. They got a great start from Masahiro Tanaka last night in beating the Cleveland Indians by a score of 3-2. We'll see how they fare here. Zach Plesac is a guy that's actually had some pretty good starts lately for the Cleveland Indians. He's been pretty decent. You look at his recent form, 3 runs or less in 4 of his last 5 starts. He had one sort of rough outing against Houston, only lasted 5 innings and gave up 4 runs on 6 hits. Other than that, he's been pretty solid. Faced the Yankees in Cleveland back in June, 2 runs in 7 innings. So he pitched really well against New York in that game. James Paxton, on the other hand, he has pitched better in his recent starts. James Paxton, really for the longest time, had gone through a stretch where he was not only inconsistent, but he was getting hit early in games. I mean, first inning had really been a problem for James Paxton. But you look at him, Yankees are 3-0 in his last 3 starts. He's got a 2.89 ERA during that time. He's only allowed 6 runs in his last 18.2 innings of work. You mentioned it in terms of the Yankees. They've battled so many injuries all season long, especially with this lineup. You look at Andujar's been out forever. Greg Bird hasn't even suited up this year. Stanton has been nowhere to be found, still on the injured list. Now Luke Voit landing on the 10-day injured list with a hernia injury. I mean, it's just endless here. Hicks has been on the DL now, added to the disabled list for 10 days with the right flexor strain. So it's just one injury after another to this Yankees lineup, yet they're still able to find guys, plug them in, and still be able to be productive. We'll see how this goes here. Paxton's been in good form in the last 3 starts, so I'm not in a rush to go against him, but Plesac's been pretty solid. His total's gone down. You know what? It's always hold your breath when you're betting a Yankee game under. Maybe this is the game to do it. Plesac's been in good form lately. Paxton's turned it around last few starts. Got some Yankee bats out of there. Maybe you go under the total at 10. Certainly the betting markets tend to agree with that sentiment.
I like it, Ian. Good stuff, man. We got our boy Alex B. Smith in the house. He's like in Miosic plus 15, it looks like, tonight. And Ian, we'll get your UFC picks as well, man. We got Miami, Colorado. I'm looking at this over, man. Also, I mean, what the heck is Marquez doing laying minus 260-ish with this Colorado Rockies team? I know the Marlins aren't any good, Ian, but I'm not interested in laying that kind of price with this team. Looking towards the over at 12. Doubt I get involved in it, though. Anything on that game or really what, Baltimore, Boston? Any other games you want to throw out on the MLB slate, man?
Yeah, I mean, Colorado laying that price is pretty crazy. This is not a team that's played good baseball. They're 12 games below 500. Their pitching staff's not been good. Their offense is capable, no question, but they just have no pitching whatsoever. And their bullpen's just, again, for Bud Black, let him down and let his team down this season. The good news is, German Marquez probably has been one of their better starters, if you could say that, but more of it's been on the road than it's been at home. You look at Marquez at home, 6.45 ERA for him at Coors Field this season. That's nothing to write home about. He's had some struggles here pitching in this ballpark. He did pitch pretty well last time against a Dodgers lineup that's pretty good. 2-hit shutout ball at Coors against the Dodgers in 6 innings back on July 31st, but that's been the exception to the rule for German Marquez at home. Before that, he'd just been bludgeoned pitching in this ballpark. But, the flip side is I don't want to lay this price with Colorado, Drew, but you want to back Hector Noesi, a friggin' retread? I can't even believe this guy's back in the major leagues at this stage. He was not very good at all in his first 2 starts back in the majors with the Marlins. This is just, nothing more than we're desperate. We need someone in our rotation. We're going to put this guy in. He's given up 10 runs in 11 innings. That's not a track record I like. I know the total's high, but I don't want the under here. It would be over or pass for me.
Yeah, interesting one there. And like you said, it's interesting. Him pitching in Coors Field, I don't think is going to be very good. I,
No.
if you made me bet it, I would bet on the over, man. Detroit Zimmerman versus Yarborough going for the Rays, and another minus 300 here. It's very tough for me to get involved in these. Um, the Baltimore pitcher, I'll tell you, he's been pretty good. I mean, minus 300 on the Sox. Not interested in laying that. If you made me bet that one, I would be on Baltimore. But Ian, this time of year in MLB with these north of 200, heck, north of 300 favorites in MLB, it's just I'm not spending a lot of time breaking these down just because it's very hard for me to find value. And with college football right around the corner, time management it becomes very important in handicapping. Do you view it the same way, or do you actually try to break it down, maybe look to lay a run line, anything like that with these big favorites in MLB?
When you're talking in this price range where a team like Boston here in this game is laying more than minus 300, it would usually almost always for me be underdog plus 1.5 or underdog money line, a small shot, or nothing at all. Because even laying the 1.5 with Boston, the price on that even is astronomical, is outrageous. So to me, I just don't. It's just very difficult in this kind of a matchup to find the value you need to go with the favorite in this game. And I don't like what I'm seeing out of Eduardo Rodriguez. This might be a game, believe it or not, where I might take a small shot with Baltimore. I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez has been erratic. He's had walk issues. He's had command issues. He's struggled to pitch deep into ball games. And when you're talking about a Boston bullpen that is dramatically and massively underachieved this season, that's a bad thing. 5.6 ERA for him in his last 3 starts. That's nothing to write home about. Like I said, walks and command and control have plagued the lefty Eduardo Rodriguez in recent starts. So not the track record of a pitcher that I want to lay more than minus 300 with. That's for damn sure. Now, I know Asher Wachowski for the Baltimore Orioles, his his current form has been pretty rough too. 16 hits in 14.2 innings, 7.36 ERA in his last 3 starts. That's pretty bad. Again, we talk about a total that's high, 10.5 here, but we've seen totals higher than this with Boston and with Baltimore. We've seen their totals sometimes 11.5, 12.5. We're seeing 10.5 here with 2 equally suspect pitchers. I think the over makes a lot of sense here. Money line wise, I would take a small shot with Baltimore. When you've got Boston, and Rodriguez here with problems going deep into games, problems getting hit, and problems with command and control. Walks have really been a glaring problem for Eduardo in recent starts. That's not the track record of a guy that I want to lay minus 300 with. And again, Boston, you look, last 3 starts for Eduardo here, the one game was postponed, suspended, Kansas City. The other 2 in his last 3 starts against Cleveland and the Yankees, Boston lost both of those games. So really they're 0-2-1 in Eduardo's last 3 starts. You got to lay over minus 300 with this guy, not me. Be a small bet on Baltimore and also the over in this game for me.
All right, Ian. We got Earl and Brandon kind of at odds here on the Rockies and Marlins pitchers here. He's saying German Marquez is a good pitcher from Earl. Marquez good at home, struck out 10 Dodgers. But Brandon saying Marquez has a 6.45 ERA at home. So 2 different angles there on that one. But Ian, we got a big NFL preseason card to get to. Is there any other MLB games you wanted to throw out there to the watchers?
In terms of MLB, not a whole lot. Maybe St. Louis is worth a look against DeSclafani, who was really roughed up in his last start. He's a guy I don't trust. I mean, Anthony DeSclafani's had a very, very subpar season once again for the Reds. Cardinals are the better of these 2 teams. They crushed the Reds last night, crushed the Reds' best pitcher last night, Luis Castillo. Whew, talk about a rough outing for him last night.
Yeah,
In
what
that
happened
game
there?
against St. Louis. And St. Louis isn't the most potent lineup by any stretch of the imagination, but Castillo just had a rough night. Nothing was working. And it reminded me of the start that Julio Teheran had a couple of nights ago for Atlanta against the New York Mets. I mean, he just had nothing. I mean, nothing was working for Teheran against the Mets. Nothing was working for Castillo last night against the Cardinals. Michaelis on the road, we know he's good at home. We know on the road, who knows what you're going to get out of Michaelis, but I still think the price is cheap enough to go with St. Louis there.
All right, good stuff, man. Baltimore first 5 better spot from Pink Eyed Genie. Thanks for joining us, Pink Eyed Genie. Brandon Lugo in the house. Nasty Nate In the house, absolutely. Minnesota, Texas, Berrios on the hill. I'd look towards that side at minus 150-ish, even though they are on the road. And then DeGrom and Junis in the – there's only one interleague game, one interleague matchup, Mets and Royals. Mets laying 200 on the road. I don't like laying big numbers with the NL team on the road, having to do the DH in interleague. But Ian, said it yourself. Let's get to this NFLX unless you want to throw out something else, man.
I was going to throw out one more, and I got to bet them at this price out of principle, and I've got to bet against this price, or bet against this team rather, at this price out of principle. Can you lay almost 150 with the Chicago Cubs on the road right now? I mean, my goodness, this team, talk about pissing away games. The last 2 losses for the Cubs, they're not just bad losses. They're absolutely brutal losses for the Chicago Cubs. Bullpen implosions in the 9th inning. 2 games in a row for this team. Happened against Philadelphia on Thursday. Bryce Harper with the walk-off slam against the Cubs. And then last night against a feeble, struggling. There's not many teams that have had a worse record, I think, in the last month and a half than the Pittsburgh Pirates. And somehow the Cubs cough up a 9th inning lead last night against the Pittsburgh Pirates and lose 3-2. This is a team that's battling a crisis of confidence right now. They're not playing good baseball. This is a World Series caliber team when they play at Wrigley Field, 162 games a year, if every game's at Wrigley. But you don't have a schedule like that in Major League Baseball. You got to play half your games on the road, and the Cubs stink on the road. They're not good. They haven't been good all year on the road. They continue to underachieve on the road. I don't trust Lester to pitch deep. I don't trust the bullpen behind him. Pittsburgh, maybe a win like that maybe galvanizes them going into today. Brault's a little hit or miss. I get that. But this price right now, with all the issues going on with the Cubs, there's no way in hell I would lay that. There's no way I would want to endorse people to lay that price with Chicago today. And just out of principle and the way things are going with this team, there's a black cloud hanging over them. Madden's getting questioned about his bullpen usage. There's players talking about, why our pitching can't hold up right now. The lineup's kind of been a hit or miss lately as well. Give me Pittsburgh here at a nice price. And I'm going to dare the Cubs to show me they're capable of being road favorites in this price range when they keep coughing up a lung in this type of spot time in and time again.
Ian, we got our boy Alex B. Smith saying Cubs have lost 6 of 7. Madden,
of course he's got to love it. He's a White Sox fan. So absolutely. If I'm a White Sox fan, I'm loving it too. Yeah.
Hey, you saw Bill Walton calling the game for the White Sox, right?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, a little. I've seen enough of Walton's act now that I tune in, and I used to always make sure I go to the television and see the whole game when he's doing it. But now I know what he says all the time. He's talking about Grateful Dead, and he's talking about all the great rock bands he's seen, talking about climate change, and talking about all the great historians and sports that have changed the world and made the world of sports a better place. He says thank you. He always makes sure he says thank you to this guy that he's talking about. Thank you for being who you are and all that. I mean, he's just Mr. Wax poetic every time he's on a broadcast. And yeah, him and Jason Benetti talk about the odd couple. That's what you saw last night on the White Sox broadcast.
I like that guy, Jason Benetti. I think he's pretty good.
He's a little screwball. He's a little off the wall, but yeah, he's tried to be funny, I think, and entertaining. He's not bad. There's a lot worse than him, that's for sure. He's just a little odd, a little bit of an odd duck. That's all.
All right, man.
People say I'm an odd duck, though, so who's kidding who?
We're all a little odd, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, good stuff, man. I know Alex B. Smith was all over that on Twitter. But man, we got to hit on this NFLX card before we go too deep into the show. Don't want to have to cut this off too soon. I like one a lot, Ian. I'm not even really a big NFLX bettor. I think that it can be, a very beatable subsector of the sport just because so much information for the odds makers to kind of go off of who's going to play, who's not. And just, with changing information, that's a great thing for sports bettors to get an edge, in my opinion. It's just a matter of digging into it and doing the work. But I did find something here, man, on the New England Tennessee game. But I'll throw it over to you, man. What are you looking to bet on the NFLX card today?
What are we not looking to bet on? I really like this NFL. I really like this NFL. NFL preseason game NFL preseason's been fantastic for me, Drew. I think we're 5-1, 6-1 so far. We're crushing it. And you know why we're crushing it? Because we're putting in the time. We're rolling up the sleeves. We're getting to work. We're reading good quotes. We're finding out good information. And that's all about what the NFL preseason is. And the information is leading us to winners. It led us to Oakland On Thursday night, easy winner against Arizona. I didn't see anything that showed me Arizona cared about that game with Kingsbury and Murray. And then I didn't like the backup quarterbacks. I like the Oakland quarterbacks, and it proved that way. Last night, I got a nice, Cam Newton. We got word he's not going to play. The Bills were going to play their starters into the second quarter, and the Bills just dominated that game. I like their quarterbacks. Barkley played good again for the Bills. Bills have great depth on defense. Didn't matter if it was Heineke, Will Grier, or Kyle Allen. Those Carolina quarterbacks couldn't move the ball against Buffalo's defense. Buffalo's going to have a serious defense this year. Mark my word, that Bills defense looks damn good. They are going to be able to really keep the Bills in a lot of games this year. So we had an easy winner with the Bills last night. I don't know how, once you found out that what the Bears were doing, how you couldn't take the Giants last night. That was another winner for me last night in the preseason. Matt Nagy didn't give two shits about that game last night against the New York Giants. He was talking about it all week. He did scrimmages, offense versus defense, 60 plays earlier in the week, and he said, this is kind of the reps I'm looking for. Well, he's talking about the reps he's looking for in a scrimmage. Told you that was like almost a dead giveaway right there. Matt Nagy doesn't seem like he's all that interested or enthused about this trip to New York for this Friday night game against the Giants, and it was an absolute no-show pretty much for the Bears last night. So that's the kind of information that I've been getting, and it's been working. So we'll see if we can uncover some more good info, and there is some good info out there today, Drew, so let's get to it.
Let's get to it, man. What, you just want to hit every game on the board?
Sure.
Okay, Cleveland, Indianapolis, 42.5, 42 as the total. Looks like 2.5, got a kind of key number here. Under 3 seems to be a key number in NFLX, 1 a main key number, but Indy laying about 2.5 pretty much across the board. There is a 2 out there against Cleveland, Ian.
For the Indianapolis Colts, there are a lot of things on your mind right now. This Andrew Luck injury is hanging around this team like a black cloud at the moment. That's not a good sign right now. You're looking at the very real possibility that Jacoby Brissett is your week 1 starter next month against the LA Chargers. So I think now with this Luck injury getting more and more murky and serious, I think, as time goes on, I think if you're Frank Reich, the head coach of this Indianapolis Colts team, you're thinking we got to do everything in our power to keep our quarterbacks, the ones that we've still got on the field right now, healthy, not take as many risks, be very vanilla, maybe rest more guys than you're accustomed to. And I think you're going to see that. I know Frank Reich was a great preseason coach last year, and the Colts had a nice preseason record under him. But the situation and circumstances are completely different this time around. I don't see them going out there today, balls to the wall in this preseason game against the Browns and really trying to show a lot of stuff and put a lot of emphasis into it. Not with the concerns now with Andrew Luck and now making sure their other quarterbacks stay healthy. Here's another concern with Indy. In the second half, it's going to be a lot of Chad Kelly. It's going to be a lot of Philip Walker, the quarterback out of Temple. Here in the second half of this game. Those two quarterbacks stunk last week. I watched that game, Colts and the Bills. They didn't move the ball at all. They struggled. They were inaccurate. Both of them almost threw bad interceptions in that game. They didn't look like bet-on quarterbacks, bottom line, in the second half of a preseason game. Not last week, and I don't think they are here. You look at Cleveland coming into this game, Freddie Kitchens, these guys are having intense practices. They're talking about, hey, we're playing all of these games to win. We want to show well for ourselves. And I like this Cleveland quarterback rotation going into this game. After Baker Mayfield, you've got the veteran, Drew Stanton, who's been around for a long time.
Yeah, he's got good.
The experience. Exactly, Drew. He's got the experience to do damage against backup defenders, second, third string defensive players. Stanton should be able to move the ball against them. And then you got Garrett Gilbert, who I thought played very well for the Browns at quarterback last week in the preseason opener that they won against Washington. I thought Gilbert played well. And let's not forget, guys, Garrett Gilbert's been in football mode for months now. He played in the Alliance of American Football back in the spring. Of course, now that league is now gone. It went under, but he played in that league. So he's played a lot of football. He's going to be in good rhythm. He played well last week. There's no case for me to lay 3 points with Indianapolis here in this game. I like the Browns quite a bit. I think 2.5, still a very good take on Cleveland. The information to me tells me I think Cleveland wants to show something today. The Colts, not so much.
You bring up Chad Kelly, and it's amazing to me, Ian, that he's a free man, not in jail by this time, and on an NFL team. It seemed like he got arrested across half of the college towns in the Southeast United States. But either way,
I
coming
wonder if he wasn't Jim Kelly's nephew, if he'd be getting seventh and eighth and ninth chances like this. But nevertheless, he's got that chance. Let's see what he can do with it.
Yeah, man. We got New England, Tennessee up next, 42.5, 41.5 being the total. Some opinion on this total, Ian. And now down to 1 or 1.5. That's New England laying on the road. It was 3. So money coming here on the Tennessee Titans. And I'll tell you, Ian, I agree with it. You just talked about quarterbacks. In Tennessee, in terms of quarterbacks who will play today, not including Tom Brady, we got Tannehill and Logan Woodside. Tannehill, obviously, a fringe starting quarterback, a good NFL preseason quarterback. And Logan Woodside, if you know anything about Maction, betting Mac football, he can spin the football and throw great deep balls. I like that. Going against Brian Hoyer, yeah, I guess, up and down either way. And Jared Stidham, coming from an Auburn fan, I believe he's one of the most overrated quarterbacks drafted in the draft. I'll take Tennessee all day long. Give me the 1.5. That's a key half a number there in NFL preseason, which I know Ian. So 1.5 on the Titans. I'm personally invested. How are you viewing this one, man?
Yeah, I'm on Tennessee as well. I like the Titans here in this spot here. And the one concern is you'd never get a damn thing out of Bill Belichick. It's like that guy's muzzled throughout the preseason. You don't get any sort of info about what they're going to do. But I'm going to bet this still, go ahead with it based on what I think the Titans are going to do. And I think the Titans do want to put something on the field and put some emphasis into this game because they got a quarterback battle going on, a starting quarterback battle. I don't think Marcus Mariota has salted away the number one quarterback job yet. I think it's going to take a lot for him not to be the starting quarterback week 1 against the Cleveland Browns for this Tennessee team, but I don't think he's completely locked up the job just yet. Ryan Tannehill's still going to take that field today behind him thinking, hey, maybe I can push Mariota to be the starter still. And Tannehill didn't play that bad last week in their first preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And you're right, Logan Woodside out of Toledo, more than capable quarterback in the second half of this game. I like the Tennessee quarterback rotation. And again, teams with quarterback battles, either a starting quarterback battle or a backup quarterback battle. Those are teams you want to bet on in the preseason. And Tennessee's got one of those right now. Again, with New England, you don't know what you're going to get from them. Belichick never says anything. I know they were awesome last week. They played fantastic against Detroit. But I think that was more bad Detroit. I mean, Matt, they got new systems going into that team. I mean, great new systems, some scheme changes for the Lions going into the preseason, and they just looked completely out of sorts against New England last week in that first preseason game. I mean, here's a great quote from Patricia I read after the Lions game last week. He says, quote, "We're still installing some things." Really, man? You're in your second year as the head coach. What do you mean you're still installing things? Thank God you're not my technician. You'd be installing my air conditioner and be dead. The air conditioner still needs to be installed. But nevertheless, that tells you all you need to know about last week's win for New England. It was very good, but I think a lot of it was just hapless Detroit trying to put scheme changes, system changes. They didn't look right. Everybody looked confused. It was just drop passes, the offense out of sync, false start penalties, the defense breakdowns there as well. I think it'll be much tougher here for New England. And again, with the win under their belt, who knows if they're really interested in this game? I think Tennessee is. So again, I don't know what New England's going to do. I haven't been able to find anything. What else is new in terms of New England's thinking going into this game? Not with Belichick, but from Tennessee, I think I know what I'm going to get. I think I'm going to get effort. We know quarterback battle means you got to show some playbook because you got to evaluate these quarterbacks. So I like Titans here, plus 1.5.
Yeah, good stuff, Ian. In agreement on the Titans on that side. Some guys in the chat box, Anthony, kind of like in the other way, saying Pats blitz a lot. And that is a good angle in terms of betting on teams in the NFL preseason, betting on teams that blitz a lot. However, I just think the quarterback rotations are a lot stronger on the Titans side. We'll move down the line. Dallas, LA Rams, we got 38.5, 38 being the total. Looks like low watermark in terms of totals on the board for today. So low scoring game here. Minus 3.5 across the board right now, Ian. That's the Cowboys laying on the road.
This line, when it opened I think on Monday morning, had the Rams as a 4-point favorite, and I shook my head in absolute shock and just absolute I was like frozen looking at the screen. Is this real life that I'm seeing that the LA Rams are -4 here in this game? Have the odds makers not heard what I've heard all preseason long from Sean McVay for the Rams saying, I don't care about preseason football. I'm resting everybody that I can here for this game coming up in Hawaii against Dallas. I mean, who's showing up to play football here for the Rams? I mean, half their starters, Goff's at home, Gurley's at home. There's so many of their big-time starters that didn't even make the trip, Drew,
They
to
did.
Hawaii this game. It didn't make the trip at all. So who's going to suit up here for the Rams is beyond me. This is not you can't take the Rams as far as I'm concerned. I know the money's just poured in on Dallas. Yeah, there's a question of can I still bet Dallas when they were +4 at the open and now they're 3, even 3.5 now showing up here on like a 7.5 point move. But I don't think there's any endorsement that could be made. None. Zero for the LA Rams with the intentions, the very clear intentions from the quotes of Sean McVay that he doesn't care one iota about the preseason. Now, it's not like Jason Garrett's a great preseason coach. Dallas has had their issues covering numbers in the preseason, but Dallas did have effort last week in that game against San Francisco. It got away from them in the fourth quarter of that game. You know, I just think they're going to have many more of their starters in the game early on. And again, when you have more of your starters in the game early on against backups for the other team, that continues through the rest of the game. Dallas could have second-string guys against Rams' third-string guys. Dallas could have third-string guys against Rams' fourth-string guys. And that is a domino effect that continues throughout the rest of the football game. I think you see that here tonight. Again, I got a good number on. I didn't get the best number. I got 1.5, +1.5 on Dallas when it was +4, but I knew I had to jump on it early. I mean, I knew the money had to come in on Dallas. It did. Maybe you're a little late to the party now if you haven't bet Dallas yet, but I'll tell you right now, there's no way in hell I want the Rams in this game.
All right, man. Good stuff. We gotta, and yeah, excuse me. I said on the road. It is in Hawaii. I'm not sure why the NFL does this, Ian. You know, as far as playing preseason games with travel like that, it's kind of an interesting business decision for them, I guess. But we got Kansas City, Pittsburgh. Looks like the Chiefs laying 3.5, 46.5, or 47 being the total in this one, Ian.
The Andy Reid tradition in the preseason is sometimes in week 2. His starters play the dress rehearsal game instead of week 3. And it sure looks like it's going to be that way again here. That's why the money's pouring in on the Chiefs here in this game. Patrick Mahomes and the offense and the Kansas City starting defense expected to play the entire first half tonight against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that is an enormous piece of news because if you're going to put Pat Mahomes and that electrifying offense out there for an entire first half, against, and part of that first half will be against second string, maybe even third string Pittsburgh defenders. Good luck stopping that if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Good luck with that because I know they only had one drive last week against Cincinnati, but it was 4 for 4, 68 yards, methodical touchdown drive for Patrick Mahomes. That offense already in one drive last week looked like they were in midseason form already. That Chiefs offense. I see points here for Kansas City. There's certainly, and again, this is another great example of Kansas City starters versus Pittsburgh defenders. Then you're going to have Kansas City's second string, and by the time we get there, Pittsburgh might be into their third or fourth string players by that point in the game. So this is an edge that can carry over start to finish in this game where you got just better players on both sides of the football for Kansas City on the field for every snap than you do for Pittsburgh. I think Kansas City's a good side. I actually split this bet up full game and first half because I think the greater edge is with Kansas City in the first half, knowing Mahomes in the offense and the starting defense going to be out there for the entire first half. But I also like the over in this game, and the over's taken a lot of money, 44.5 up to 46.5, but it's warranted. Kansas City's going to score points. Kansas City had 38-17 last week. You look at Pittsburgh, their first preseason game, 30-28, 58 points. So both of these teams' preseason games flew over the total last week. And I think Pittsburgh will score some points in this game, Drew. After Big Ben leaves the game, he'll play a drive, maybe 2 at the most with the starting offense. After that, another team with a quarterback battle. Josh Dobbs and Mason Rudolph for the backup job here in Pittsburgh. It's a very close battle right now. Nobody's separated themselves. Dobbs and Rudolph battling for that spot. So you'll see them in the game quite a bit. Second, third quarter. They have a rookie in the fourth quarter. Hodges is his name. Actually played pretty well last week when he came into the game. So I think Pittsburgh will score points as well, too. I like KC first half, KC full game, and I like the over in this game because I think you're going to have a ton of offense and ton of quarterbacks on both sides that are going to be able to move the football.
Alex saying he likes the quarterback rotation for Pittsburgh as well. We got one game left, guys. A bunch of people pouring in. We really appreciate you watching Saturday mornings. Next week, we will be on one half hour earlier, 10:30 a.m. from the Diplomat in Miami. Ian, Cameron, myself, a couple other SBR personalities likely joining us, as well as college football kicks off next week. And then we'll turn it into pretty much a college football closing line kickoff show into football season. So it will be a lot of fun. Ski Profit in the house. What's up, my boy? Agree. Mason Rudolph from Oklahoma State, right? Yes, absolutely. That's where he's from. He lit it up all over in Stillwater. We got one game left here, Ian. Have at it, man. Detroit at Houston, 40.5 the total, -4.5 the Texans land.
Yeah, there's a lot of preseason games I have a pretty solid opinion on. This isn't one of them. Detroit and Houston here in this game. So I haven't made a bet yet. Houston's taken money. It's 3 up to 4.5, 5. I think that's set some hints that we're maybe going to have a Deshaun Watson sighting finally for the Houston Texans here in this game. But I'll tell you what, Houston didn't really look all that great. I can tell you what, Houston's not a team I'll be backing come the regular season. I've got concerns with this football team. I've got big concerns with, you talk about the Bills having great depth on defense. That's the polar opposite of Houston. I don't think they have great depth on defense. And we saw Green Bay really shred this team once the backup defenders got into the football game for the Houston Texans. That's a concern. Detroit was miserable. Okay, people saw Detroit last week, and I mentioned it earlier. Scheme changes, some system tweaks for Matt Patricia's team going into the preseason. They look completely out of sync, completely out of sorts last week. But when you lose that badly at home to New England like they did, there's going to be some kind of incentive that, hey, we got to put something better product-wise out there on the field tonight than we did last week if you're the Detroit Lions. And I understand people betting Houston at -3. Now that it's up to 5, I think it's too many points now. You got to have a damn good reason to lay -5 in any preseason game. Especially the first 2 weeks of the preseason. There's just not enough of a reason for me to go ahead with Houston laying more than a field goal in this game. I guess Detroit, if I had to. It was ugly for them. You got concerns with them for sure, but Detroit plus the points, if I had to bet, it would be the way I'd look.
Boom. I like it, Ian. And guys, if you're liking the content, please give us the thumbs up, the like button. It will help Ian and I out. We appreciate it. And that's every game on the board in the NFL. Ian, we hit on some MLB as well to start. We got best bets coming up, but do want to throw it to you, Ian, for football north of the border. We got CFL action. Hamilton, your Hamilton Tiger Cats versus Ottawa, laying 2.5 on the road. Also Montreal versus Calgary. Looks like the Stampeders laying 5 at home, 50 the total. What are you thinking north of the border today?
I'm very interested in the Ticats now. Not so much early in the week when they were 4.5. It's down to 2.5. And look, the spot's not great for the Ticats. They had a comeback win against BC. For the Ottawa Red Blacks, they've struggled at home, but they almost have to win this game if they want to have any chance of catching the Hamilton Ticats for first in the East Division. It's a huge game for the Red Blacks. I get that. But I'm just convinced Hamilton's better than Ottawa. They really are. Ottawa's not impressed me. Dominique Davis hasn't really gotten this offense back on track since he returned from injury, which is kind of surprising, but he just hasn't been overly sharp. The Ottawa defense has had concerns. Hamilton, kind of got away with one last week. If the spot wasn't so much of a concern, I guess you could say, for Hamilton. They're going on the road after a comeback win at home. I'd be more anxious to back Hamilton. I would still lean their direction now that it's 2.5. It's not the greatest spot to back them, but at 2.5, I'll probably have some pizza money, small play on them. The totals come down 52.5 to 48.5. Ottawa's been an under machine. Their offense is really stagnated, but this total is now 4 points lower than it was. I still like Dane Evans and the Ticats offense. They showed it last week. He seems to be getting more comfortable by the week. I would lean Hamilton -2.5, and I would lean over 48.5 now that you get some value in the total, now that it's come down 4 points. But they're lukewarm opinions. They'll be small bets at most for me.
All right, Ian, good stuff there. What, we week 10 in the CFL now?
Yes, it is. We're at the halfway mark, essentially. It's unbelievable. The season's just flying by before we know it. The Grey Cup will be here in November. Hopefully not too soon, because that means the winter weather will come with that, and we don't want that. Montreal-Calgary, Drew, I'll jump right into that game, the second game. I took Montreal +7. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that agree with me because it's down to 5, 4.5 even in some spots here in this game. Look, Calgary, to me, in this game, this is a questionable spot for them. They're coming off back-to-back big-time games against Edmonton and Winnipeg, divisional games, two teams they're battling with for first in the West. Now you're stepping outside the division. You're playing Montreal. Everybody's getting excited that Bo Levi Mitchell's going to come back this week for this game. That's not going to happen. Nick Arbuckle is back at quarterback. Bo Levi Mitchell needing another week at least before he comes back. And there's a concern because Dave Dickinson gave all the practice reps early in the week, Drew, to Bo Levi Mitchell, thinking Bo Levi Mitchell's ready to come back. That's not the case. Arbuckle barely practiced this week. All right, he barely practiced. Now all of a sudden he's a starter when he didn't think he was going to be, with Mitchell expected to come back. So that throws everything for a loop. I think rhythm, cohesion might be a little bit, just maybe not sharp, this Calgary team, especially on offense here in this game. For Montreal, you get Vernon Adams back from injury at quarterback is huge for them because Antonio Pipkin was not playing well in Vernon Adams' absence. He was not moving the football whatsoever for the Alouettes. I think having him back will help. Montreal has been good getting points as an underdog. And Calgary, you want to know what their record is? Well, they were laying 6 or more in this game. They're down to 4.5, 5. But Calgary's record laying 6 or more this season, 0-4 against the spread. They've had trouble, as larger favorites this season. Montreal's been good in the underdog role, 3 of 4 as a dog they've cashed. They're 8-1 against the spread the last 9 head-to-head against Calgary. For some reason, the Alouettes always give the Stampeders a hard time and give them some fits. I think they'll give them some fits here, too. I think they'll challenge to win outright right till the end. And if they pull off the outright win, it wouldn't shock me. Let's not forget, Ottawa, who's a mediocre team, they won into Calgary week 1 and beat the Stampeders outright as 9-point underdogs. So Calgary can lose here at McMahon Stadium, and I just get that feel this could be the spot we do see them lose at home.
Ian, good stuff. North of the border football. I want to give a shout out to CDOM in the chat saying, what's up? Saludos from Guadalajara, Mexico. It's Saturday, ready to get the Coronas going and to beat the books. Talking about Mexico, talking about Spanish language. Ian, are you working on your Spanish for coming down here to Miami?
Sí. I am working on it. There you go. There's my Spanish work that I've done the last several months. Sí, and cerveza por favor. I'll be able to say that down there. So I'm looking forward to that. As long as I know that, I'm set because we'll be doing some drinking down there. You better freaking believe it. We're going to be doing some drinking down there in Miami Thursday through Sunday when I'm in town next week. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this trip. It's going to be fun. I wasn't sure I was going to be going on this trip about a month ago. And I said that to Jimmy. Jimmy was in Toronto. We were down in Toronto at Wild Wing Bar. And I told him, I don't know if I'll be able to get, rearrange my schedule to get down there because I had a cottage trip initially planned this week, but I moved it to 2 weeks ago, the cottage trip. So now all of a sudden, I've got the time available to go down to Miami, and now I'm looking forward to it.
All right, good stuff. We got Christopher Guilford in here saying UFC stuff. What we got, Mios versus Daniel Cormier, minus 140-ish here, 4.5 in terms of the total. I believe that's no 2.5. I'm not really sure what the total is here, Bobano. It looks like I think the odds screen's a little off here. Nate Diaz fighting as well. Anthony Pettis. You want to throw it, guys, in the chat box? Let us know what you're betting in UFC as well. But Ian, I know you know the UFC pretty well. So what are you looking to bet here fighting tonight?
Yeah, someone in the chat. You know what? If there's a prop out there saying, "Will Ian bring his Speedo to Miami?" Bet the no. There's absolutely no shot of the yes cashing in that regard.
No Speedo for you?
No Speedo. No Speedo. No.
There's not a certain amount of money that can make this happen.
There's not a certain amount of how much money we talking? Yeah, money can always maybe change someone's opinion on a certain thing. But yeah, UFC, a very good card, obviously tonight. One of their bigger cards of the year, of the summer. This is like the end of the summer for UFC. A big card like this, really good fights, really tough fights to handicap because you can make good cases for both fighters in a lot of these fights going into it. That's why there's a lot of pick 'em price range type of fights. I'm going to make a case for Paulo Costa against Soldier of God. Soldier of God, to me, Paulo Costa's got that knockout power. You get him as a slight underdog here in this fight against Yoel Romero. I think he's worth a look. I lean a little bit to Nate Diaz against Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis is fantastic, no question about that. But I like the loose, calm, relaxed demeanor. You got him smoking a spliff, at the media session earlier this
I
week.
saw that. That interview
Nate
was
Diaz,
entertaining.
that was absolutely hysterical to me. Nate Diaz, just because he's a small dog in that fight, will lean a little to Diaz. And I'm going to be against all this DC. A lot of people loving DC, and it's tough to go against him. I understand that, but I think you're getting a motivated, focused, intense Stipe Miocic. You just had a kid. That usually bolsters certain guys as well going into a fight. I'm going to be on the Stipe train tonight. It's not easy to go against a guy like Daniel Cormier. We know he's trying to maintain, that win streak he's been on as the heavyweight champ. We know he doesn't have many fights left in the drawer, so to speak. But I think Stipe is going to have make the adjustments, be a guy that's going to end up really giving DC a lot harder of a time than he did the first. Let's not forget, he didn't make a bad account of himself. He just ended up getting caught at the wrong time. The Stipe in the first fight against DC. So Stipe, again, these aren't big time strong opinions, but Stipe, Paulo Costa, and Nate Diaz for me in those fights. I also kind of like Bermudez a little bit in his fight as well. And Brandon Davis as an underdog is sort of attractive in my mind as well against Kang in that fight. I think if you're looking for a big live underdog in this card, Brandon Davis might be that fighter.
I like I like Nate Diaz here, Ian, and I know that interview it was fun, it was entertaining, but I agree with Nasty Nate. I think he just gets him to the ground and taps him out. So that's why I like Nate Diaz as an underdog. I'll take the kind of jiu-jitsu guy over. Pettis's ground game just isn't there really. So if he gets on the ground, he's in big trouble. That's the one bet I like so far on the UFC card. But Ian, anything else you want to throw out, man, before we get to best bets?
No, that's it. I mean, we're about almost at 1 hour. We hit everything: MLB, CFL, NFL preseason, and UFC. So it's this is a super Saturday. I mean, obviously we're going to have a lot of super Saturdays coming up with college football starting, but for a Saturday in the summer with still no college football, this is a pretty good Saturday. You've got an NFL preseason slate, CFL, baseball, a great UFC card. So lots to wet your whistle on this Saturday.
Good stuff, man. We'll follow him on Twitter at Babano. You can follow me on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Ian, start us off, man. What are you thinking for best bets?
Best bet will go to, I usually go to CFL, but I don't love the Hamilton-Ottawa game. I only have lukewarm opinions there. Montreal lines moved too far. Let's go to NFL preseason, and even some of those lines have gone too far. Let's go with a line that's still pretty good, and it's still intact at a good number here. Let's go with the Cleveland Browns plus 2.5 against the Indianapolis Colts. It's the early game in preseason action, a late afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern kickoff on the NFL Network. Indianapolis, to me, is just, we're going to be really conservative. We're going to be really cautious here, especially with our quarterbacks, knowing Jacoby Brissett could start week 1. I don't look at Phillip Walker and Chad Kelly as a quarterback duo that I trust in the second half of this game. I trust the Cleveland quarterbacks after Baker Mayfield. I like Drew Stanton. I like Garrett Gilbert. Both of them played well last week for the Browns. I see a lot more intensity and focus to put out good showing on the field for this game from Cleveland based on what I've read than what I see from Indianapolis. I think Cleveland wins outright. Give me underdog points. Just a bonus. And by the way, if you've been betting road underdogs the last 2 nights in NFL preseason action, you're doing very well. The road underdogs are doing quite well the last couple nights in preseason. I think we've got another one that gets to the ticket cashing window tonight or this afternoon with Cleveland plus 2.5 against Indy. That'll be my best bet.
All right, Cleveland plus 2.5. The Browns. Ian Cameron on Twitter at Babano's liking it a lot. Put up the banner here at the bottom. We got the new form here where we can kind of showcase different guys in the chat box. Also put up what the best bets are. We got Ian Cameron NFL preseason action on the Cleveland Browns plus 2.5. I'm going to follow it up here. Staying in NFLX, we got a 7 p.m. Eastern kick here. New England at Tennessee, 42.5, -1.5. New England on the road. I'm on the New England Patriots the Tennessee Titans plus 1.5 big excuse me there. Tennessee Titans, the underdog. The quarterback rotations really like the Tennessee side, like we talked about earlier. Tannehill, Logan Woodside. Tannehill, I think he's played well here this preseason. The change of venues out of Miami, I think it's actually helped him. And then Logan Woodside, the Maction quarterback, tore it up there. I think that he does well late in the game as well. And on the New England side, Brian Hoyer, decent quarterback, but Jarrett Stidham, in my opinion, one of the more overrated quarterbacks in the NFL draft this NFL draft. But Ian, anything else you want to throw out before we close this down, man?
That's it. Other than if you're traveling to Miami anytime between tomorrow and next weekend, get that down there safely, safe travels, and most of all, have fun. Have a good time. It'll be a lot of fun getting to see everybody down there in Miami. And a reminder that our show, Closing Line, the Saturday edition, is going to be on next Saturday, but we'll be live on location from the Diplomat in Miami, doing this show at 10:30 a.m. Eastern next Saturday. It'll be me and Drew, and I believe DJ Big Boss and Big Ragu joining us. It'll be a four-man show next Saturday morning. Closing Line, we'll break down the first two college football games. We got Miami versus Florida, Arizona versus Hawaii. Next Saturday, we'll break those down. We'll look at MLB, CFL, and preseason NFL, everything else that's on the card next Saturday, live from Miami. Don't you dare miss it.
Absolutely, and well said, guys. 10:30 next week. Everybody have a fun, safe week. We'll see you next Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. Be there next Saturday, college football kickoff. Best of luck, boys.
Good luck, everybody.